Hello, future designers and developers. Oh boy, I'm so excited. We have got, and I kid you not, I would not lie to you, my favorite lesson of all time. Today we are starting our React unit, and we are going to be learning how to use React to add HTML elements. So this is the assignment that we have right here. React is a JavaScript framework. So we're taking everything that we know about JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, and we're applying this framework to it. React is a very popular framework. It's arguably the most popular. It was developed by Facebook, and it's used throughout the industry. The big benefit of writing in React is that we can write HTML elements inside of React. So we're writing HTML inside of JavaScript. It feels a little uncomfortable to start, but once you get the hang of it, you can see that this is a really powerful tool for making responsive web pages and things that have a lot of content that we want to update frequently. So stuff like Facebook, where we have new posts that are user generated over and over again, we want to be able to accommodate those. So that's why we use something like React. And you can see this is going to be our first grade inside of our React standard. And we're just going to be looking at this success criteria right here, that we are using elements on our web page are created using the ReactDOM.render syntax. So let's get started. I'm going to walk you through kind of a basic tutorial and then tell you about the assignment itself later on. So let's start with this right here. We're going to remix our glitch template. And when we go over here, it looks very much the same as any of our other HTML projects that we've worked on. But we not only have our index.html, our to-do, our readme, we also have our package.json, our site config, and our watch.json. And we'll get into those in later units. But our big difference that we want to look at is this source folder. Inside of our source folder, we'd have all of our pages. We've got our styles, which has our CSS, and then we have our index.jsx. So it's not our index.js or our app.js. We're using JavaScript, not just JavaScript, React. So it has that X to it, a JSX file. Sweet. All right, so let's go into our index and let's actually start writing this. Cool. So like I said, how JavaScript or React works, we are going to be creating all of our elements inside of JavaScript, except for one. That is going to be our root element. So let's create our root element. It's just going to be a standard div with an ID equal to root. This is where we're going to populate all of the items that we create on our page. Sweet. Now we only have one more HTML element to write, and then our HTML for the entire page is done. It may feel weird, but yeah, that's all that we need to do. So what we need to add now is a script tag. This is just going to link our JavaScript to it. So our script tag will require a type. This is a little different from what we've done before, but that type is module. It's because we are using our React framework. And then we just need to describe what source we're grabbing. So as you can see, we've got a source folder. So we need to go a layer deep before we can get into our index.jsx. So I'm going to go /source/index.jsx. Cool. And then close up our script tag. And that's all of the HTML we have to write for our web page. Everything else is going to be written inside of JavaScript. So let's navigate over there. Inside of our source folder, we're going to go into our index.js. And here we are importing two different things. The first thing that we're importing is the actual React framework. Without that, this doesn't work. And then we're going to import our React DOM. So if you recall from our JavaScript assignments, our DOM is our document object model, which allows us to access things based on where they appear inside of our HTML document. So that's using our get element by ID, get element by class, our query selector, whatever it may be. Any of those, we now can use those in partner with React. Sweet. All right. Now this is where it gets new. We are going to be using that React DOM function. And we are going to do render, which means that it's going to draw out anything that we write in here. Now the render function takes two different arguments. The first argument is literal HTML. It's just asking what HTML we have. Then it's asking for the location of that. So these are our 2 arguments that we are looking to add in here. So let's write some HTML. And I'm going to move this just to make it a little cleaner. And I'm just going to start writing HTML. I'm going to throw in an H1, and inside of here, I'm going to throw in hello world. Cool. Now we also are going to need the location for it. So we're going to go to document, and it's automatically going to throw this into our document without doing this, but we want to make sure that it's inside of our root element. So we're going to say document dot get element by ID, and we named it root. So that's going to be our root, and that's it. We have just written our first React page. We added in this H1 right here, and we've got our document get element by ID root. There we go. Cool. Now, there is one more thing that I have to go over before we talk about the assignment. Let's say that we wanted to have a subtitle to this. So I'm going to prettier this real quick, and then let's scroll back over here. So we've got this H1 right here, and it's got our hello world. But if we wanted to have a subtitle to this, something like H2, and we say something like good night world, you can see that we're going to get an error right here. And it's going to say that our JSX element requires an enclosing tag. So we need everything inside of one tag. So if we wanted to do a multi-HTML element render function, we need to wrap everything inside of a div. So I'm going to take a div and wrap everything inside of it. And now you can see that it has populated both of those. It can only render one parent element. So when we had both of these as the same level, then we weren't able to render both of them. Cool. All right, that's going to come in handy. Now let's take a look at our assignment. So this is what we just did. I walked you through all this. If you prefer the step-by-step instructions, those are all there. But now let's go right here. So in part 2, practice creating a React page. With the lesson you learned in part 1 of the assignment, create a partner interview with another classmate. Be sure to include both of your names in the headings of your website. So at your table mates, you are going to be conducting this interview. We've got 5 fun questions, and here's an example of it. So you can see there's a lot of different elements that we have. I've got an H1, an H2, an HR, an H3 with a paragraph, and then that repeats throughout. So that's why we need to make sure that we have a div that is wrapping all of those elements that we want to create, so we can only call that function once. So we don't want to call that function over and over and over again. It would just be a lot more JavaScript that we have to write. So just wrap it all inside of a div. Cool. All right, so that's going to do it for our lesson today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please make sure that you're reaching out, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.